Divorcees who initiated the divorce but now regret the decision. What was the reason you initiated your divorce, and why do you now regret your action? Not me, but a kindly older gentleman that I knew had divorced his first wife when their daughter was 8. He eventually remarried and had a son. He told me once if he could do his life over again, he would not have ever had that divorce. He loves his current wife and loves his son. But he said, no matter the troubles there were in my first marriage, losing them was not worth the pain and suffering the divorce caused my daughter. Whoa, that's really sad. Regret is a terrible emotion. I was very unhappy and blamed him for all of it, when it was just some of it. I should have stayed and tried harder to make it work. I've dated a couple of people since then and I only now realize how compatible I was with my ex and how rare that is. Good for you for having self-awareness and learning from your experience. I hope you find happiness. My physically, mentally, sexually abusive narcissist father served my mother divorce papers to teach her a lesson about how much she meant to him and would help her appreciate him more even though he didn't really want a divorce at all. His words. And she went through with it. They've been divorced 10 years and she is incredibly happy and he is remarried and still hopelessly in love with and obsessed with my mother. Best thing that ever happened to her. My parents split 29 years ago and my dad is still obsessed with my mom, though he only ever says negative things about her. It can be a completely non-mom related conversation and he will find a way to work her into it. Shout out to all the poster who felt sad by recent divorce and started typing their experience only remember why they got divorced to begin with. I hope your day got better since you realized that the grass was not actually greener. Stay strong folks. You'll get there and be happy again. The grass is greener where you water it. I thought it wasn't working and that I didn't love her anymore. Now in retrospect, I realize it was different. Basically what happened is that we were both so similar that we even had kind of the same mental issues. Nothing too serious. After I did a psychiatric treatment and got better, she started getting worse. Like a late contagious disease. I thought that it was just her being a bee. After we divorced she did a psychiatric treatment as well and she went back to being the woman I fell in love with, but after failed attempts to get back together the relationship just deteriorated and there was no way we could go back to being a couple. I was depressed for a year and got better very recently. We were a really happy couple. We loved each other hard. We had projects and stuff. She was there for me when I needed psychiatric help but I wasn't there for her when she did. That feeling of being guilty fricked me for a long time. Today I can say I'm happy. We talk maybe once a month or two. We still love each other but we don't wanna risk fricking this fragile bond by getting back together. We just wish each other well and that's fine. Also I learned a lot from the whole experience and became a better person thanks to it, so I'm forever grateful for having had such a great partner. Not me, but my mom recently divorced my father to teach him a lesson about how she should be his one and only priority in life and he shouldn't have any hobbies or interests outside of pleasing her. Needless to say it's not going well for her. I bet he's learning that lesson really well now. Or their hobbies. Not myself, but my friend's ex did this to him. Long story short, she forced him to move in with her parents because they were having financial difficulties. They moved in and took over paying rent for the parents, so he was basically paying the full rent on a house for the use of one of its 4 bedrooms. It turned out that the parents were full of crap too. They started taking lavish vacations because they didn't need to pay their mortgage anymore. Anyhow, the parents started to inject themselves into their relationship, and things went south. She started working extreme hours, and more or less ghosted the guy for the last 2 years of their relationship before serving him with papers. About 6 months after the divorce was finalized, she started to regret divorcing him, so she started stalking him on social media. Since the guy wasn't dumping 75% of his paycheck into somebody else's mortgage, he had bought himself a new car, new motorcycle, was living in a pretty chill house, and had found himself a hot girlfriend. Needless to say, she got pretty jealous and tried to win him back. He basically told her, I don't play childish games. Move on. I initiated the divorce because I was unhappy. He was growing into a person I no longer recognized and so was I. We fought regularly. I was spending more and more time away from home and feeling better for it. It's been 18 months since I left and I miss him every day. I don't know I actually regret it, but I wish I'd tried harder. He is about even with good and bad points, but I decided I no longer wanted to spend half my time unhappy, and more than anything, I wanted him to be happy more often too. God, that last sentence hits home hard. I initiated the divorce because I thought that my depression was genetic, and we both really wanted kids. I couldn't justify forcing a kid to feel the way I do, so I told her that I wasn't going to have kids. She wanted to be a mom so badly, so I told her that maybe it would be best to divorce so she could find someone who she could have kids with. After the divorce I found out I have leaky gut syndrome, which basically means my intestines don't digest certain foods correctly and lets bad things into my bloodstream, which caused my depression. After fixing my diet and finding the right medication, I've been so much better. I tried to fix it with her, but I had damaged our relationship beyond repair in her eyes. Not a day goes by where I don't think about her. Since the divorce I moved to Europe to be with my family. I'd give anything to take away all the pain that I caused her. Edit. Thank you everyone for your kind words, especially you Edvinter. As quite a few people pointed out, apparently leaky gut syndrome isn't actually a thing. However, changing my diet did have a huge impact on my physical and mental health. I have some sort of allergy to sugar that really messes with my head, so cutting that out of my diet has helped immensely. Also, I am currently taking Zoloft, which has helped, but definitely consult a licensed psychiatrist before taking any medication. Second edit. Go see a therapist. They are incredibly helpful. Also, if you don't like your therapist, there is absolutely nothing wrong with seeking out a different therapist. I was literally on my way to my therapist and decided not to go because I just didn't like her. That was the same day I went home and told my wife we needed to divorce. After that I found an amazing therapist who helped me grow and get so much better. A few people have also asked about adoption. For me, I have quite a few personal oppositions to adoption. For me, adoption is an amazing thing for those who choose to adopt. However, it would not have been healthy for my wife and I. I can't fully say that I regret the decision, but I know it was the right thing to do. She cheated on me while I was at work, military, long hours and few days off, and then tried to hide it from me. When I started asking her questions and digging up the truth, I was military police, she said maybe we need a divorce. Well, if you think our wedding vows were just a joke and you didn't really mean it when you said you'd love me until the day I died, I guess you don't deserve to be my wife. She was bluffing, just trying to get me to move past her infidelity, but I called her bluff and went on to divorce her. It took a few weeks and cost $570 in North Dakota. Good investment. Unfortunately, she also then left the state. I let her, because I had different feelings in my heart, with my son, my car, and my dog. She didn't even come back to let me see my child, so I only saw him twice that year when I pleaded with my leadership to let me take more leave. Being scared that my almost 2-year-old son wouldn't remember me next time I saw him was the worst feeling I ever had. My dreams of being in the military for 20 years or more were suddenly dashed, and I couldn't rightly continue serving active duty while my son grew up in another state. My contract expired and I went home to be a dad. My boy is almost 7 now, and he has grown so much. He copies me in the ways I treat people and he shares so many of the same interests. It just melts my heart every time I hear him say, "You're my favorite dad," in response to me saying, "You're my favorite kid." He is just such a polite and happy little guy. He is happy that he lives in 2 different houses. He doesn't hold anything against either one of us. For now. Anyway, I don't talk bad about his mother in front of him, or anywhere, really, and I still take them out to breakfast now and then when we switch off custody for the week. Not great news, though. I found out yesterday that my ex-wife is pregnant with some guy she's only very recently met. He is 31 and has 3 kids of his own, and was divorced in the last year. I hope that he doesn't flake out on her. My son doesn't deserve that kind of drama now that he is old enough to feel the aftermath of it. F***ing Cotton. I'm a mess today. Get your dang dog back. Jeez. She had been withdrawn and acting weirdly for a couple of weeks, including a 5-day cruise. I finally brought it up during a fight and she admitted to acting differently because she had given up. I said that if she wasn't going to even try anymore, then I wanted a divorce. The next day, she asked if I would consider a separation instead. I agreed to that, but it was essentially over. She would never again re-engage in the relationship again. We ended up talking a lot more over the next few months. Actually, in some areas, more than we ever had in the previous 16 years. But it would take some work to overcome the difficulties that we had been having. She was clearly uninterested in doing any of that work. After a few months of separation, she decided that she was done. I regret that running my mouth in a moment of anger is an excuse that she's used over and over as to why she wouldn't try. I regret that my kids have had to go through this because of my mouth. I regret losing family that I had grown very close to. I do not regret that the marriage is over. As soon as we separated, I started therapy for my anger issues. That therapy has put me in a better place emotionally than I have been in since I was a teen. When she moved out, I found that I really hadn't been as happy as I had thought. I regret that running my mouth in a moment of anger is an excuse that she's used over and over as to why she wouldn't try. She would have 100% found another reason in its place even if you didn't say what you said. YTF did this question come up today? I initiated the separation because none of the problems we had talked about were being addressed. I wasn't going to put in more work, but I wasn't able to at the time. Crappy work schedule, always sleeping during the day. At least I told myself I wasn't able to. If I had put in 15 minutes to 30 minutes of extra effort every day, I could have saved what we had and made her feel a lot better about herself and us in general. But I guess I was just a lazy pose. The question came up because many people are thinking about divorce much of the time. I asked in order to get people who had already gone through the divorce and had time to reflect on it, to share their regrets, in part so that we can all see the patterns. Sorry to hear about your divorce and regret. We just argued all the time, but we never resolved anything. When you don't find resolutions, old arguments get put into play during new arguments. I would try to come into a disagreement with ways we might be able to compromise. I eventually realized that it wasn't about finding happiness, but justifying anger. I just got tired of doing that daily and decided it was better to end it. Now I'm forced to pay insane amounts of money for child support and alimony. My ex has a good job. We have shared parenting and 50/50 custody. They figure out what your kids need in child support based on how much money both parents make. So I owe 65% and my ex owes 35%. Instead of splitting that money 50/50 because that's how much we have the kids, they just give it all to one parent. So I incur 50% of the cost raising the kids plus I pay my ex 65% of the cost. So my ex gets to profit off of the kids, plus alimony. It just sucks. I honestly don't regret getting divorced though, just this freaked up system. Not divorced but marriage is very rocky. I let her, F19, and her family pressure us to get married too young. I knew it was a bad idea but I had no backbone. Hopefully we can make it work. Communicate well, it will at least extend the relationship a bit. Not me but my cousin. He's a real holier than thou jerk and no one blamed her for wanting to leave him. He was always pulling crap about how the woman should serve the man and all that. Well, after the divorce was finalized she got a terrible deal out of it. She's didn't work because he convinced her it wasn't the woman's place. She had some crap lawyer while he had some hotshot. He walks away with the house, the cars, and partial custody of the kids. Meanwhile she has no credit, no higher education, and hasn't worked for the last 20 years. To top it all off, her primary custody will be revoked if she finds at least a 3-bedroom place to rent inside their city. Naturally after it gets finalized and reality sets and she wants to go crawling back. Wow, what a jerk. Poor woman. It's going to be rough finding someone that regrets it. For me it wasn't so much regretting the initiation of my divorce but I do regret how I did it. I was initiated things in the nicest way possible to not give her a single excuse to say it was me who was the butthole of the marriage. She had abused me for years and when she asked for children, I just couldn't take it anymore but being the nice guy that I am, I let her walk all over me. I let her live in our house while I went into a horrible studio and while I was out and paying for all her bills. She quit her job to demand more money from me. She completely trashed the house. Told everyone we knew that I was verbally abusive towards her. BS. And siphoned a ton of money out of me. The house ended up getting foreclosed on because she wouldn't sign the papers and I ended up taking a huge hit on my credit that affected me for 7 years. She wouldn't sell the house for a profit before the financial crisis despite my pleas and instead she let it sink as low as possible. In the end, she took a massive crap on me and left the country without caring about her own credit. My original divorce plan was to lie to her that we were moving to a country where she had been begging me to move to, sell the house and liquidate all our assets, then file for divorce before buying the tickets where she would only get half the money, but I thought that would be too mean. It would have been a clean split, but I decided to be a nice person and got severely burned. Hey, at least you got out without any kids with her. Things could have been worse. I cheated on him. I was sure that was the end of it and needed to punish myself. He was willing to try to work through it, but I thought the damage was done and that I needed to move on to find happiness. I later find out that I had been depressed for a while and might have cheated as a desperate act of trying to make something happen. I have never regretted a single thing more in my life. Called off an engagement, if that counts. I was, and am, very career driven, to the point where I was working 60-70 hour weeks between 2 jobs, paying off all my student loans, maxing out a 401k and IRA, all the good financial tick boxes. The problem was I was neglecting her personal needs. The way I saw it was that I was building a future. The work now was setting us up to purchase a house in 2 years with no PMI and retire by age 50, if not sooner. I was playing the long game, and hot dang was I playing it well. But I'd come home, eat, and pass out from being so tired. Never really gave her time with me. Sure, I was there, but often I was just so tired mentally and physically. So finally she broke. I should have seen it coming and told me I needed to pick if I wanted a future with her or with my finances. I picked my finances. It wasn't angry. It was more I saw her as being financially irresponsible and that it wouldn't work with me if that's how it had to be. We're still great friends. For a while after I was happy to be free to work all I wanted. Then I started to deeply regret it. It was my fault and my choice, and we were great together. I mean, even if I backed off we still could have retired early. Still had the house without PMI. I didn't need to max both a 401k and IRA. It's overkill, but I could, so I wanted to. Thankfully, in a weird way, she realized she wanted to have kids. I am firmly in the Dinklerberg camp and I thought she was as well. We discussed it, but people change as they age. So it was a small consolation to know we avoided having that issue pop up. Then I found my current who, if it weren't for the tax implications, would be my wife. Due to our incomes we'd actually end up paying more in taxes if we married. So I don't regret it anymore, but I definitely did at one point. Based on the marriage comment in the last sentence, sounds like you found a good fit. He was an alcoholic and very controlling and abusive. It was getting worse and I finally had enough. I didn't want my son to grow up like that, so I got a restraining order and got the heck out. I don't miss him at all and I know I did the right thing for me. Part of me wishes I had tried to stick it out and get more counseling help for the ex. Even though I know deep down those are only band-aids and he would have gone back to the terrible behavior. Tried before many times, just for my son's sake. I worry that he would have been happier if I had just stayed. Also visitation time. Supposed to be supervised by family members, but still, just about kills me with worry. There were lots of good, sober times, but when it was bad it was terrible. Deep down I know I did the right thing. No one should have to be afraid to come home every day, and I hope the peace in our life makes up for what my son is missing out on. But I still second guess the decision and worry that I should have tried harder to work things out. In Texas, and most states, the court does not allow the custodial parent to move away from the NCP without the NCP's permission. This is the default order in any divorce court order. So by initiating the divorce, I locked myself into living in Texas when I could have simply left the state and taken the kids, and by the time he filed for divorce, I'd have established residency for me and my kids in a better place for us all, and Texas could not have done anything to make me return. I don't know your situation, but ripping someone's kids away from them and fleeing the state sounds pretty awful. I read one regret story where in a fight one said, well, I guess we're heading to divorce court. After the divorce she realized that they never talked about it. Is this what we really want? You have to wonder how many times that has happened. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.